Hello to all of my patrons, it's Ed, I'm back again. I know we're supposed to go into the famous people on this patrons video, or beautiful pictures, but I thought I'd just do a special one on Atlantis. I was watching Jimmy's video over at Bright Insight, which is a very good video on this interesting thing he's seen on, on a television station, and then kind of did a bit of research. It's in regarding Atlantis. So what is Atlantis? Well, first I want to thank you all for supporting my channel, and you just really help keep it going, and also go into all the comments after this video. But let's have a look at what everyone's talking about. So these are some artists' depictions of Atlantis. Okay, so you can see it's a really a circular structure there, and these are depictions based on Plato. And Plato's depiction there of Atlantis and the what it looked like. So it was a large sea ring. We'll just blow this up a little bit. You can see there was two waterways, okay, and there was two pillars, they stated. Well, two islands with waterways around them like that, and then a landmass. And what they said is there was a mountain range which was on one side. Also waterfalls that came down, and it was close to the sea. Not too close, but it was close as in a distance away. It wasn't equivalent to Zimbabwe or something, which is a landlocked nation. It had a coastal access. So a lot of people for a long time believed that Atlantis was not real, and today they still believe that, as Jimmy states in the Bright Insight video, which we linked in the comments section of this patron video itself. Very good video. It's about 20 minutes, but it's definitely worth watching. I thought it was a great bit of research there from Bright Insight. I've always wanted to do a channel dedicated to ancient archaeology and things myself. Maybe that'll happen one day. Maybe it'll happen in a few months. I'd have to set up my editing software though, but it would be a great little hobby to go into. Nonetheless, that is the depiction of Atlantis. Of course, we have other depictions. I just want to show you these before we get into it. You can see a depiction there, etc. So most of the depictions from Plato's writings have a similar theme. That as a circular kind of city, you'd have one island, I guess you could call it, and then another island here, and the sea traffic coming in here, etc. So this is a very interesting thing. So what happened here? Well, this was a really research. There's a whole documentary on this, apparently on the Gaia channel. One day I'll hopefully watch it. I don't have the Gaia network myself, but Jimmy from A Bright Insight, and this video here, which I'll link, as I said, Bright Insight here, talked about the inspiration, or this was first investigated by the Gaia Network, so it'll be interesting to see what this is. But so if we just come back to here, if I can find it, here is Atlantis, so to speak. Let's get a good picture here. I think the best picture is probably, let's say, this one here as a description. So here is the interesting thing. In the documentary they link it to this, which is called the Eye of the Sahara. This is a massive place which is linked to, guess what? Close to the sea. Okay, and people do not understand what this is, but that directly matches Atlantis in its description. You have the two islands. You have one island there, you have the other island there, and you have a channel which goes to sea. Now you have to remember, going back thousands of years, like what I talk about in some videos, such as the cataclysm and things like this, 12,000 years ago, the water levels themselves were far higher. Okay, that's far lower in some aspects, and depending what, I guess, which time you go back in, higher or lower. But if you think about this all flooded with water, then think about that. That would look exactly like Atlantis. Okay? So people say, do not really know what this is. Some people say it's an asteroid impact, among other things. But it's called the Eye of the Sahara. So if we have a look at some of these, pictures of the eye of the Sahara. Look at it standing out in the middle of there. It is like Atlantis. It has the hill range to one side, as was described, as was described there, and you have all of this, all of this desert here, and then there's a link to the sea down here, I believe. We have to get a wider angle here. But if you look at it on a map, although it's quite inland, you can see it there in size, and the sea's over here. Think of water levels being up here. In fact, you can kind of see it there. Just think of the water levels being a bit higher there, etc. And some of this, even when you look at it, like if you go with Randall Carlson's depiction of being able to see the wave breaking, from the cataclysm, etc. So the water levels could have been higher at one aspect, or there could have been, of course, ways in, to the water, etc. You just never know. And look at it right there. Isn't that amazing? Here is a alleged satellite photo. This was actually found apparently by astronauts, and they use it as a place marker in regards to satellites. Now, some people don't believe space programs real. I believe that they actually have at least satellites and things. Look at it. It directly matches in terms of landmass. There's a more closer up version. You can see the two islands, so to speak. If you picture that all covered in water, that would look exactly like Atlantis. And you can actually see here, all these kinds of look like from runs or creeks or waterfalls or something. Maybe at one time this was flooded with a river or something, and this was all waterfalls. Think of a different time when the Sahara was green, when Egypt itself was green. Why do people say that? And it used to rain a lot. Well, look at the Sphinx damage. The erosion damage on the Sphinx shows people that once the Sphinx itself used to sit in tropical climates. It was raining. It was heavy with rain all the time. Think of lush forest around here. Think of all this flooded with water. Okay, you got these two islands here. Isn't that interesting? So you can see some more pictures around. Now the descriptions of Atlantis, according to Bright Insight, actually described it being built out of a black and white rocks, or black and red and white. And you actually find those same coloured rocks around the region in mass. They're all over the place. These strange black rocks there, and red rocks as well, etc. So that matches as well. And Jimmy got the actual length of this across and actually worked out the actual length across measuring from Google Earth, and found that the length across there also matches the descriptions of Atlantis. Let's just take a little look at that. Have a look at it here.
Structure, and erosion did the rest of the work to create what you see today, which is
clearly heavily eroded. But this, of course, is all speculation, as it cannot be proven, and again, we've never seen anything like this anywhere else throughout the world. But here's where things start to get really interesting. It just so happens that the diameter of its outer circle is approximately 23.5 kilometers, or 14.5 miles, which is basically equivalent to the size and dimensions provided by Plato when converting from stadia to modern measurements. For example, the circular island of Atlantis was described as being 127 stadia. Well, one stadia is 607 feet, and 607 feet times 127 stadia is 77,089 feet.
So you get the point there from a Bright Insight. He did the calculations there in the videos, and it seems to match the actual length as described by Plato. Now ask yourself, this is a unique structure in the world. It's never been seen before in the world. This is the only place where anyone's ever seen anything like this. Ever. And one thing about science, in order to make a hypothesis, what you have to do is you have to see replications of it in the environment repeated in order for you to say, okay, it's made by a volcano, or okay, it's made by an asteroid. But you do not see that. No one knows how this is made. They have, of course, theories. Some people say it's an asteroid, etc. But there's no evidence for it because you don't see it repeated. And repeatability is what science is. And if you want to support a hypothesis, turn it into a theory, you have to have evidence, and that is one of the main evidences there is really repeatability. But look at its length to the ocean. Well, this isn't the ocean, sorry, but it is there, as that arrow points, not very far to the actual sea itself. And think about this when it would be flooded with water. You have the actual passage, the same passage towards Atlantis, where the boats can come in. Some people are probably listening to this thinking I've gone insane. You know, I've finally lost the plot. I'm talking about Atlantis. Well, I'm going to get into some other kind of very strange things about this and a little bit later. Some things that Jimmy didn't mention, but pretty out there things that I have no real evidence for. But you've actually got the passage you can see there, if you think of it's flooded with water, where the ships could come in, exactly like Atlantis. You've got the actual passage there. If you go to Plato's Atlantis here, we jump into one of them. These are depictions written, designed, or made from, Plato's interpretation there of what he states what was Atlantis, and you can see the channel running in there. You see the mountain ranges. They added the mountain ranges themselves. The mountain ranges are there. The channel is there. Now, isn't that really interesting? So let's look at some more photos here, and you can see it's just an absolute majestic kind. I mean, I don't mean you overuse the word majestic, but it's an absolutely fantastical, almost fantasy-esque thing. Look at it. It's amazing. Look at what it looks like. Look at it there. You can see it's like a big swirl on the landscape. You can even see, look at this. This is where all the water came in through breaks. Would have filled this up. It would have been an island upon islands. A theory. I mean, I don't know if it's Atlantis or not. Let's just be real. The strange thing is from the surface you can't see anything. You can only really see what it looks like if you're looking at it from the sky because of these. And remember, this has undergone eons worth of change, through the environment. Right there, you can see landlocked by, well, not landlocked, but you can see all of the actual mountains there themselves surrounding it. Think of it filled with water. And there it is. What a weird shape on the landscape. It looks artificial to me, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm not an archaeologist. I can't really say. And I've never heard this theory before. As far as I'm aware, that what happened on the Gaia network is the first time I've ever heard about it. And I've listened to a lot of Randall Carlson, etc., a lot of it, and archaeologists, ancient. Was this on Ancient Aliens? I'd never seen it on Ancient Aliens. Maybe it was. I've watched all of the most of the Ancient Aliens. I haven't seen them all. This is a photo from space, allegedly. I say that. I'm not saying they can't take photos from space. I'm just saying I don't know if they're taking it from space because they're so corrupt. Sure, they could actually put something up there to take a photo of. That's pretty bad, isn't it? And there you can see, what is that? It looks like a computer-generated image, from a scan. This kind of big scan of the environment. You can almost see, look at this place. Think of it back in the days. The boats coming in through there. 2 islands now heavily eroded by eons. Okay, big mountains, exactly where Plato said they were. All of it, exactly. Right there. Isn't that amazing? I thought it was a really great video on this. And I thought I'd share it with everyone because I thought people might be more fascinated with something like this as a little bit of a rabbit hole to jump into rather than, top 10 jokes or something like that. So let's just jump back to here. And a lot of people, they don't even believe Atlantis is real, but they never believed Troy was real until one person went out and followed Homer's instructions and found the city of Troy. That's known now. It's in the history books, okay? So just something interesting there. Let's just get a little other thing from this video. I'll be back in a second. Let's just play a little bit of Jimmy here.
Years ago would match so perfectly. And that's not the only thing that matches up so closely. Most notably, Atlantis was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 rings of water and 2 of land. In fact, here are Plato's exact words. There were alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another. There were 2 of land and 3 of water, which were turned as if with a lathe, each having its circumference equidistant every way from the center. And here you can see a few animated examples of what people have created based off of Plato's description of Atlantis. Now, compare this to the Richat structure. Just look at this. The first thing that you must understand when you see this is that this is far larger than it looks. For example, this photo right here was taken from high altitude, and what you're seeing is something around 20 miles across, or 32 kilometers. And this particular photo does not even show the entire structure, which is approximately 30 miles or 48 kilometers across.
So there you have it there. I won't go too far into it because now the thing I was going to say is pretty out there. This is way out there, okay? But in my research into Rh negative, and this says I have no evidence to support this whatsoever. This might as well be a fairy tale, okay? But a lot of people state that the people Rh negative originated in Atlantis. It's like what a lot of people say, and a lot of people claim that there is a connection between Atlantis and Rh negative. So they're saying that it's Rh negative people might be a descendant of those Atlantis. I know what I'm talking about now. People are like listening to this going, you are finally gone insane. There's no evidence. I know there's no evidence for it. Okay, I'm just talking. That's all I'm doing. I'm just talking a little bit here. That's all. Let's take a look at one little article. So here's just one article. I mean, there's no evidence for this. So here is just to support the fact that there is a number of people. There are many websites that suggest that the Rh negative people come from the lost continent of Atlantis, the same continent here. So let's explore the theory. There have been numerous books that say the people of Atlantis went to live, etc., in the mountains of France and Spain and northern Africa, area of Morocco and Egypt and the Americas. Could this be where we get the blood type of Rh negative? What's Rh negative for people that don't know? It means that they're missing the rhesus monkey protein there. Let's just, so there is just a little thing. I mean, it means nothing. You know, it's the same level of really information. You know, Rh negative in Atlantis is, you know, talking to Fred down at the coffee stand saying that he used to be, I don't know, he used to be a king of some continent. It's not, there's no evidence. But I think there is a lot of interesting things about this and what's called the eye of the Sahara. Look at it. What happened in the past? What happened in the past? Very unusual, okay? Whatever happened in the past. Let's just go to those Patreon questions. So here we are. Here's Tina there. So let's have a look. I enjoyed this video and I'm looking forward to the beautiful pictures as well. Thank you, Ed. I watched a movie yesterday called Endless. I have actually seen that movie. It was okay and had some great potential. It did have a lot of potential at the beginning, right? But then it just turned weird. It didn't make any sense to me. But what struck out for me is that it is literally a mirror world film. I'll leave it at that in case someone wants to watch it. I don't want to spoil it. Have you ever experienced moments of synchronicity? It is the strangest of things and tells me that something is able to harness, control the invisible thread that is woven among us. Thanks again for the vid. I have experienced moments of synchronicity, not massive moments. There are some very famous examples of massive synchronicities. I haven't experienced very big ones. I can't remember them. I've literally forgotten them. You know, they're just little moments of it. Nothing that big. Thank you, Tina J. I hope there's everyone's comments because I got you know, people were saying the other day. Beck Kunz was saying the other day that the comments never showed up, or she comments on every vid. I hope that's not the case with this one. This is literally, I could not find a spam folder or anything, so I'm assuming that comments, when people put them in here, they should literally show up. To apologize if that's the case. I'm not sure what's happening there. My daughter went to Mexico last January, and this is from Teresa here. I told her to ask around to see if anyone knew Ed from the Outer Light. She laughed at me and said she wasn't going to ask about conspiracy theories. Anyway, I watched the Galenda's Files movie over the weekend, a true conspiracy theory that happened before I was born and buried for decades. Love your work. For your information, we call those floats noodles that were in green in the photo. Those floats noodles. I don't remember that. Oh, yes, the green things that people were swimming on and had that strange picture underneath of like the mermaid thing. Yeah, they call them noodles. Yeah, they have them in New Zealand. I mean, at the water parks. I have no idea. I suppose they'd probably call them the same thing. I just had no idea what they went. I meant New Zealand story. New Mexico has been on my mind lately. Now that's a piece of synchronicity. Unless I've read this comment before, it seems like I've already read that comment. I don't know. Maybe it's suggestive because someone mentioned synchronicity and then I felt like I'd read it before. I meant New Zealand, sorry. Okay, so not New Mexico. So they went to New Zealand last January. I don't think anyone in New Zealand knows who I am. You know, watches my... There are a few people from New Zealand that watch my channel, but it's not like famous or anything. I told her to ask around and see if anyone knew Ed from the other light. She laughed at me and said she wasn't going to ask about conspiracy theorists. Yeah, well, I don't blame her. People look at you a bit different if you ask about conspiracy theories. They just do. Well, I guess that's... I don't see any other thing that will give me any other comments here if people have commented. What is going on? Is that it? Maybe that's just it. Maybe, you know, people just do us 3 comments. I mean, you know. Well, let's just do a little bit of research into this. I'll be back 1 second. No, if I check my things, these are literally the comments I have. 5th of September, 3 comments from your patrons. And then I come down here and the rest of the comments are from other videos here. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. So anyway, thank you so much for your support. I hope you liked our little journey into Atlantis. Next patron video, of course, we're going to go into those famous people, as you know, we were talking about the other day. Famous people from history. And I said we'd do 5, you know, that are super famous, but maybe not, you know, famous as in their what they've done, but no one's really heard of them. So we'll go into those, and then we've got beautiful photos as well, and then you know, things like that. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Hope you found the Atlantis thing interesting. I'll put the video to Jimmy's video in the comments section so you can watch that. Maybe you find it a bit more fascinating. Let me know what you think in the comments section next time, and we'll have a read through those. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourselves, everyone. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you all later.